does the team go about selecting specific locations in terms of where to set a mission? Obviously, we've talked about Slovakia a whole lot. We've got the Malta training facility. What is it like to sort of decide those locations?
I mean, we talked about contrast, right? We talked about different social strata. We talked about different density in, let's say, how it's populated or what's around you in terms of objects. Like some of the missions are more of a 10 meter space. Some of the missions are more than that. And so contrast is really key to that. And then let's say you want a lavish chateau, for instance. You know you want that from an aesthetic point of view. And then the question is, well, where then and how? And then that's where we land in the Slovakian Alps, for instance, because we know Alps is very Bond-like, but it'd be nice to be in some part of the Alps that we haven't visited before, so that you get an experience that is well known, but new at the same time.
Is there one particular location from the Bond franchise you were sort of most excited to sink your teeth into and sort of put your own visual stamp on?
We do one-to-one M's office to really put our foot truthfully into the lineage, right? Right next to that, we have QLab, which of course has a new, let's say, rendition in each outing. And for us, specifically for the gamers, you can imagine that's a fun challenge. From an aesthetic point of view, for me, amazing opportunity, and work with our amazing team to realize that.
Is there a specific cinematic trick or visual flair that maybe to you is synonymous with the Bond movies that it was important for you to either replicate in the game or sort of at least pay tribute to?
Well, I mean, there's certain iconography and certain treatments of that I can't touch upon just yet, but obviously we are well aware of them. Another thing that we're focusing on a lot is eyes, for instance, right? So how to play with awareness between the characters and how to play on these agent tropes and romance and things like that in the realization of, say, cinematics, for instance.
Looking for these?
Hold on. Do you have any archival access, or are you just using the movies as a reference?
We have set photos, and of course we have archival access to the film bank, if you will, right? And with that in mind, that's certainly a good springboard. And then I think from there on, it's general craft. Our character designers will understand costumes and will talk about a certain way a lapel is shaped, and I'm like, what? You know, and so each craft lead and director has specific knowledge simply by way of their craft. That is of course then appended by whatever access we have, or whatever catalog of insights or behind the scenes that we have access to.
Do you have a personal favourite Bond yourself? If so, who is that? And have you managed to sneak in any nods or references to them?
I think nods and references is a little too gaudy for what we're doing, but obviously we're all influenced by all these different things. So I would say, I've heard from the demos we've been doing so far, people come out and say, oh, that's clearly a X reference, and I'm like, oh, it happens naturally, I would say.
When the decision was made to cast an actor and use their likeness as Bond, does that make your job as an art director slightly trickier, because obviously this person does exist and you need to render his performance a lot better and not sort of touch on it too much?
Well, you could say in terms of characterization, is it really art direction, right? We've analyzed the character throughout 60 years of IP presence, from Ian Fleming's books all the way to movies, games and whatnot, and we broke him down and sort of made this matrix of traits, and also how these traits change throughout time. So I would say it's more about ensuring that the character lands on a feeling than it's about, say, a particular look, for instance. That said, obviously we have the scar. Obviously we have sort of a version of what charm can look like for a young Bond. So of course there are look things, but I think the central character traits are much more really what it's about.
What's one aspect of First Light, either the game as a whole or from an art direction standpoint, that you hope surprises people when it does finally release?
On the sort of IO side of things and where we're coming from, I hope that we surprise people with how front foot, fast-paced, cinematic, adventurous, action-momented the game is.
When you come into a world as established as Bond, from a visual and artistic standpoint, is it good to have those creative constraints to work within?
In my career, having worked on our previous projects for many years and over many different endeavors, I've always been inspired by Bond, actually. So in that sense, Bond is kind of the de facto blueprint for how you approach these things. So I feel like coming into this project, Bond is already part of my DNA as a professional and as an art director. And because I've referenced the material so much already, it feels like home, I would